The worst NFL number one picks ever. Total disasters. Every year, the first overall pick is promised as a franchise savior, but sometimes that savior becomes a multi-million-dollar disaster. And today, we are counting down the worst NFL number one picks ever. First off, some dishonorable mentions. Before we dive into the bottom 10, we have to acknowledge two players who avoided the top 10 list by the thinnest of margins. This was often due to circumstances beyond their control. Brian Bosworth, linebacker, 1987. Brian Bosworth cost the Seahawks a first-rounder and was the top selection in the supplemental draft. He was signed to the largest rookie contract in history at the time, totaling $11 million. The Boz was a marketing phenomenon who arrived in Seattle via helicopter and rocked a mohawk. Unfortunately, his play did not match the persona. He is most famously remembered for being steamrolled by Bo Jackson on Monday Night Football. Between chronic shoulder injuries and a lack of elite NFL speed, Bosworth lasted only 2 seasons and played just 24 games. He remains the poster child for hype over substance. David Carr, quarterback, 2002. Similar to Couch, David Carr was the first ever pick for the expansion Houston Texans. The disaster here was not Carr's talent, but his protection. In his rookie year, Carr was sacked an NFL record 76 times. By the time he left Houston, he had been sacked 249 times in 5 seasons. He developed a permanent internal clock issue that haunted him for the rest of his career. He eventually won a ring as Eli Manning's backup in New York, proving he belonged in the league, just not as the savior Houston hoped for. Number 10. Kenneth Sims, defensive end, 1982. When the New England Patriots selected Kenneth Sims first overall in 1982, they expected a dominant pass rusher to anchor their defense for a decade. Sims was a Lombardi Award winner at Texas and a back-to-back All-American. The reality, Sims struggled with injuries and weight issues from the jump. Over 8 seasons in New England, he managed only 17 career sacks. To put that in perspective, many elite defensive ends hit that number in a single season. His most infamous moment came when he was arrested for possession of cocaine in 1990, leading to his release shortly after. He is remembered more for his game day nickname than any actual production on the field. Number 9. Andre Bruce, linebacker/defensive end, 1988. In 1988, the Atlanta Falcons thought they were getting the next Lawrence Taylor. Andre Bruce was a physical freak from Auburn who looked like he was built in a lab. Instead of a Hall of Fame career, the Falcons got a player who could not find a permanent position. Bruce was moved from linebacker to defensive end and back again, never mastering either. In 4 years with Atlanta, he started only 33 games. He eventually became a journeyman, playing 11 seasons total, but only recording 32 sacks. For a pick intended to be a defensive cornerstone, Bruce was a monumental disappointment who spent more time on the bench than in the backfield. Number 8. Dan Wilkinson, defensive tackle, 1994. Nicknamed Big Daddy, Dan Wilkinson was the consensus top pick for the Cincinnati Bengals in 1994. He was an absolute mountain of a man from Ohio State, and scouts believed he would be unblockable. While Wilkinson had a long career, 13 seasons, he never lived up to the generational hype. He was often criticized for a lack of motor and inconsistent effort. In 4 seasons with the Bengals, he never recorded more than 8 sacks in a year. When you are the number 1 pick, serviceable is a failure. Cincinnati eventually traded him away after he held out for a bigger contract, marking the end of a very expensive and underwhelming era. Number 7. Sam Bradford, quarterback, 2010. Sam Bradford's disaster status is unique. He is arguably the most profitable bust in sports history. Due to being the last number 1 pick before the rookie wage scale was implemented, Bradford signed a $78 million contract with a $50 million guarantee before taking a single snap for the St. Louis Rams. Bradford had elite accuracy, but his knees were made of glass. He suffered back-to-back ACL tears and never played a full 16-game season for the Rams. Despite earning over $130 million in career earnings, he finished his career with a sub-500 winning record and 0 playoff wins. He was a fiscal disaster for every team that paid him. Number 6. Steve Antman, defensive end, 1992. Steve Antman is the ultimate what-if. Coming out of Washington, he was one of the most dominant defensive tackles in college football history. The Indianapolis Colts took him number 1 in 1992, expecting a perennial Pro Bowler. Tragedy struck almost immediately. In his first 3 seasons, Antman suffered a blown-out ACL, a torn patellar tendon in the other knee, and a ruptured disc in his neck. He became the first player in NFL history to be placed on the injured reserve list in 3 consecutive seasons. He played only 18 games for the Colts over 3 years. While it was not due to a lack of talent or heart, his career was a total disaster in terms of availability. Number 5. Courtney Brown, defensive end, 2000. The 2000 NFL Draft is famous for Tom Brady going 199th, but it began with Courtney Brown going first. The Cleveland Browns paired him with his college teammate LeVar Arrington in the hopes of creating a defensive dynasty. Brown had a decent rookie year with 4.5 sacks, but then the injuries started. Over the next 4 years, he missed 33 games. He was a quiet, reserved player who never showed the alpha mentality needed to lead a defense. He finished his Cleveland career with just 17 sacks across 5 seasons. When the guy picked number 199 becomes the GOAT, and your number 1 pick is out of the league in 6 years, it is a disaster. Number 4. Kijana Carter, running back, 1995. The Cincinnati Bengals traded up to the number 1 spot in 1995 to draft Kijana Carter, a superstar running back from Penn State. They gave him a $7.125 million signing bonus, which was a record at the time. On just the 3rd carry of his first preseason game, Carter tore his ACL. In the 90s, that was a much more devastating injury than it is today. Carter lost his explosive home run speed and was never the same. He spent 7 seasons in the league, but only started 14 games total, finishing with a meager 1,144 rushing yards. The Bengals spent years trying to recover from the draft capital they burned to get him. Number 3. Tim Couch, quarterback, 1999. Moving into the top 3, we have Tim Couch. He was the face of the resurrected Cleveland Browns in 1999. Coming out of Kentucky, he had the arm and the pedigree. However, he was dropped into an expansion-level roster with an offensive line that was essentially a revolving door. Couch was sacked 166 times in just 5 seasons. While he did lead the Browns to a rare playoff berth in 2002, his body eventually gave out. He finished his career with 64 touchdowns and 67 interceptions. He was a player in a bad situation, but as a number 1 pick, his failure to stabilize the franchise makes him one of the biggest statistical disappointments in history. Number 2, Jameis Winston, quarterback, 2015. At number 2, we have Jameis Winston. While Winston has had a long career, his tenure as the number 1 pick for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers was a roller coaster of turnovers. He is the only player in NFL history to join the 30-30 club, throwing 33 touchdowns and 30 interceptions in a single season. His inability to protect the football led to a staggering number of pick sixes that actively cost his team games. Despite having elite weapons like Mike Evans, Winston could never find the consistency required of a top pick. He was eventually replaced by Tom Brady, who immediately led the team to a Super Bowl win, highlighting just how much the quarterback position had been holding the team back. And finally, at number 1, Jamarcus Russell, quarterback, 2007. There is no debate. Jamarcus Russell is the biggest disaster in NFL history. The Oakland Raiders took the LSU standout number 1 overall in 2007. Lured by his massive frame and an arm that could throw a ball 70 yards while sitting on his knees, Russell held out for a $61 million contract and arrived at camp out of shape. His work ethic was non-existent. Coaches once gave him a blank DVD of game film to see if he would watch it. He came back the next day and said the blitz packages looked good, proving he never even opened the case. He finished with a 7-18 record, 18 touchdowns, 23 interceptions, and 15 lost fumbles. He was out of the league in 3 years. So, which of these busts do you think was the biggest letdown? Did the team fail the player, or did the player fail the team? Let us know in the comments, and do not forget to subscribe for more NFL history.